In this video, I'm going to try and give you a balanced opinion on how the DeAntonio D50 performs through the water. I've seen a few videos already online which look like they perhaps are misleading a little bit in how these boats are supposed to be used. I can see a very clear design brief for this boat, and I'm going to try and demonstrate that to you so you can understand if this boat is going to give you some value. So I like it when I see designers and factories taking risks with something different, taking risks with something new. So as I said in the intro, I'm going to try and point out the specific scenarios where I believe this design brief, this DeAntonio D50 Coupe, is going to suit you best. And we're just going to be realistic with some of the use cases, because I have seen quite a few people who seem to be a little bit confused or misinformed online about what this boat is all about. She really is shining when it comes to these tropical, island hopping, calm destinations like we're in today. And the DeAntonio is the destination, if that makes sense, and I hope it will throughout the video. So I'm going to be running through the fuel flow, running through the speeds. Currently I've got quad engine setup on this one. So we are the quad 400s as opposed to the twin 600s, which is an option on this boat. So that's a total of 1600 horsepower as opposed to the 1200 horsepower. She's an 11.5 ton light ship, 1,500 litres of fuel. We filled up the tanks chock-a-block this morning. You got 450 of water. There's 3 people on board and our equipment. And we're currently nipping along quite comfortably at an SOG of 29 knots at 4,600 RPM and in flat water. A little bit of wind chop, but this is really a flat water test today. We do not have ocean conditions, and I don't see this as a boat that you would take in big ocean conditions. That's why I've come to this destination to demonstrate it. So fuel flow, I've got it on a per motor. We got 4 engines, so I'm burning 60 litres per engine at the moment at this 4,600 RPM. I'm going to put the boat through a gradual turn to port in a second, and then we're going to actually increase our speed ever so slightly as we go through the turn and feel out the heel angle. Okay, banking into the turn now. Clear. My viz is actually really good with this roof design. I can see out one small loss of visibility from the pillar just there. Other than that, very, very good. Excellent wind protection. And from a seated position, this boat is still quite manageable. Even for a short bloke like me, this seat is on the lower side, meaning it's going to be super suitable for much taller people than I. Coming around at 30 knots SOG, let's actually just back that speed off. So I believe the quad rig setup is going to be the pick of the bunch in terms of the engine selection for most people, because when we go back to 4,200 RPM, we're still seeing a speed return of 26 knots. We've got a fuel flow of 50 litres per motor. And one of the immediate takeaways on this particular design, it's got to be the noise levels. These Mercuries are already quite lovely, lovely motors. I'm a big fan of these V10s. But when you put them in the enclosure that has been designed around to give us that swim platform out the back of the boat, you even notice a further reduction in noise levels. So this is going to be quite a social platform. Remembering we can take up to 12 people on this thing. You could take more if your local authorities allow. There's so much space. You could have 20 people on this thing and still be okay. So I think one of the next observations is this is very much a moderate weather hull. I can feel it straight away. We've got so much beam. We've got 4.4 meters of beam at its max, and we've got so much volume. You can literally option this boat with a swimming pool up the front. For a location like this, that would be so awesome. Like I can't think of anything better. Literally treating your boat as the destination, cruising around at these sensible speeds, eating up the miles, and just parking up for a party, for a lunch, out of the sun, in the air conditioning, enjoying your day. We're going to do a nice gradual turn to starboard, but no boat comes without compromises. And I can see right now as I go through this turn, these high flat sides pushing the volume forward doesn't allow us to design a super offshore hull, and I don't believe that's the design brief of this boat in the first place. So what that does, having all that volume forward, it means that we've got more boat connecting at a different angle when we make contact with the sea. And these straight sides, if I was doing, for example, exiting Haulover Inlet with outgoing tide and incoming seas at a rate of knots, you're going to see water going up the side of these hulls. There's nothing that's going to stop it. So I do believe in certain situations it's going to be a slightly wet boat. Not for the passengers, because we're wrapped up in glass just here and everyone here is going to be comfortable. So I think your decision process is all about what's the mission. And I think if the mission is entertaining, this thing is going to do a great job. So let's just keep rolling through a couple of those average speeds. Now I'm back up to 4,700 RPM. I'm seeing a fuel flow of 70 litres per motor. I've got the zip wakes doing auto trim. I actually believe it would be quite relaxing to drive this boat on single lever. We have the autopilot accessible via the Skyhook joystick system. If you need to eat up some miles like we did this morning on this boat, you would just easily sit back here, activate the autopilot and enjoy the ride. I don't believe this is so much of a super active, attention consuming driver's boat. It's not really that style. 30 knots. I'm just going to wait for this fisherman to clear my way. I'm going to go around him on the longboat, and then we're going to actually pick a clear line, and then we're going to speed the boat up and see how much fuel we're consuming, coming through some waves. So it's perfectly comfortable in these moderate, anything below a foot or two of chop, as long as it's, conditions like we have here in Thailand, I believe are perfectly suited to a boat like this. If you were in Miami, cruising around on the bay, if you were in the Gold Coast of Australia or Mallorca in Spain, you're going to get a lot of value out of this boat because you are literally bringing the destination with you. Alternatively, if you're in the UK or if you're in Melbourne or Sydney Harbour and you do have to deal with some big swells and times, I think you're going to have to adjust your speeds and think about how you drive this boat. 35 knots, perfectly comfortable. Let's go wide open throttle. So we got so much power. 37 knots, 5,800, burning 120 litres a side. Let's do a little bit of engine trim up. I can see 40 knots there. I haven't gone foot to the floor yet. That's 6,000 RPM. And full throttle just there. 41 knots, 42 knots. The boat's a little bit bouncy. You'd only do this in the right condition. 6,200, a little bit of a trim up. I think this is probably, in the right conditions, I would say this is a 45 knot boat because I'm seeing 44 just then at 6,300 RPM with the quad 400 V10s equipped. So I do like the quad setup. Obviously I haven't driven this with the twin setup, but I believe with the 4 sets of props going, obviously you've got counter-rotational props on the twin 600, so there's an argument to investigate that. I believe you might just have a little bit more surface area or water being pushed underneath the boat with the quad rig, so she's probably going to get up at boogie at a little bit more of a rate compared to what is available to you with the twin rig. But do test that. I'm just guesstimating that, not speaking from experience. Coming off the plane, she does create quite a bit of a stern wave. I noticed some air slats through the swim platform, so you're not point loading that platform too much because the water was making its way, or the air and water was making its way through the platform. And then once you dissipate that wave, you can then transition to displacement speeds. And this is also going to be a boat when you're in super social mode where displacement speed will be comfortable. So let's just do that for a tid. And I'm seeing at 1,700 RPM, I'm getting a steady 7 knots, an acceptable wave, which not in a no wash zone. You might have to knock that down a knot to be in a no wash zone, but if you're out in the open, the boat still feels level. Our fuel rate is 12.5 litres per motor. And then if you are in a no wash zone, you're really watching out for your neighbours, or you're just being a nice guy, I think you probably want to stick to around that 6 knots there. And, you know, even grandma on a stand-up paddleboard is not going to have an issue with that. So that's totally fine. So I think what we're going to do from this location now, we will head into some shallow water, and I'm going to play with the joystick and the transverse thrust, and then we're just going to simulate some operational scenarios and as to how your day would work. Obviously, there's going to be a difference if you're here in Southeast Asia. You're just going to be relaxing out there because you're going to have a captain. so that's where I see so much value in having a platform like this here in Thailand. This has got to be one of the top destinations globally where I think this specific design is going to shine, because you've got so many options of destinations to go to, and you really do want to bring your comforts with you because it's quite hot here. You know, if you've just got an open style adventure boat with a tiny little air conditioned cabin, you know, the rain comes and it belts down here for half an hour, but then the sunny day reappears again. So I like the idea, or having the possibility to just duck downstairs, take the party downstairs whilst the rain shower does its thing, then it clears and you enjoy the rest of the day, which is definitely how the weather works in this part of the world, as opposed to having to pack up your day because no one's got anywhere to hide and it's all over. So that's where a design like this shines, and it also allows us to go quite shallow because we're only 70 centimeters overall draft plus the motors, which will trim up. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, we've come into a shallow water location, and I'm just going to demo the joystick. You have different speeds on these joystick systems, so we're obviously running this through 4 motors and not 2, and you can dial up the power. There's different power settings up and down depending on the wind or tide that you have to account for that day. Pretty straightforward. It does appear to turn on its own length, and what I do notice when I use joysticks on bigger boats, the wider they get, that is the boat or the hull, the easier the boat becomes to maneuver. And I'm putting that down to extra leverage. Obviously weight is another factor to build into that, but with the extra width between the outside motors, it's just giving you a lot of leverage to play with. So this is pretty easy. We've got quite high sides, so you do need to factor that in when hanging fenders. Going forward, it's a safe boat to walk around. I don't think anyone's actually going to fall in, so that's all right. But if you do have to get off the dock midships, that's going to be more difficult if you don't have some dock steps. So then factor in being able to step off at the transom, which is what it's been designed for. So just testing the side slipping capabilities of the boat now. So just checking all clear, no divers in the water. We'll just go to starboard. So little bit of correction required to keep the boat parallel, but nothing that you wouldn't already be used to on a boat of this size and type. And so that's fairly predictable. And now let's go back to port. And I'm just going to stabilize the boat. I do have a little bit of wind chop here throwing me around, so it's part of the fun today. So, yep. I'll do transverse thrust in a second. so we can move the boat along. Oh, lots of blue fish in the water, aren't they? Beautiful. I love coming to places like this. Awesome, amazing. So yeah, that is quite predictable. Just factor in, we do have relatively high sides, so I still am favouring this quad rig setup for, it just seems logical to me, but feel free to jump in the comments and prove me wrong. I don't claim to know everything, we're just out here testing boats. So let's try transverse thrust, and still in 5.5 meters of water. I'm feeling good, and we'll just get the boat moving. Plenty of power. You know, I really can actually get the boat spinning there with that. So if you found yourself on the joystick and you hadn't actually dialed it into the right power setting, you could just immediately come over to the throttles, because they will just take control and dial it up to a much higher power setting should you need. And then with the thruster, so I'm gonna have to turn that on. Okay. You can hardly hear the thruster from all the way up here. We are quite a distance from the bow. So there's enough power there to assist you at the dock, but I'm not going to rely on that on a windy day to keep me clear if you've got 20 knots of crosswind. Oh, no. Plenty of power, that's sufficient. That's torquey, remembering I'm doing that not in flat water, so I'm going to get some aeration into the thruster tunnel. That's perfectly acceptable, but I would be combining that with some joystick or engine power just to make it look smooth, and then factoring in our height of the gunnels. So from a standing position, I've got really, really good viz, and you are just going to have to do some guesstimation on close quarters from when the dock disappears, if you're sliding in, until when it touches your fenders, or communicate with your crew. Let's just see if we can actually, you know what? No, I tell a lie, you could actually just hang your head out this window and see. So that's not a problem. Well, but reaching the joystick is going to be a problem if you do that. So you'll have to be hands off joystick, do a double check, and you're fine, or work together with your crew, or use your brain and just count it down, depending on how close you are. Not a lot to it, and again, if you're in a place like this, you won't even be worrying about any of this. It'll just be your captain. So if you are in a place like Southeast Asia and you don't care about driving a boat like this, which seems to be so many people in this region, use this video and send it to your captain and ask him or her if this is a boat they feel comfortable driving, or whether they can learn something out of this video and make recommendations to you as to whether this is a style that's going to suit your boat life. That's the whole idea. All right, next stop, dropping the anchor, and we'll wrap this video up. Guys, I've had 30 years experience on power and sailboats, and today all I do is test boats in an unbiased fashion. So hopefully you can help your boat life by using these videos. I'm not affiliated with any of these brands or the dealers. I'm not selling boats, and I'm not doing paid advertorials.
This is where opportunity meets chance.
So we tested the anchor windlass, and the bow roller does protrude sufficiently enough for the anchor to clear the bow, and it didn't hit, so that's good. We've obviously picked up a mooring here because that was the easy solution, because we still are in 10 meters or so of water. So who is going to see the most value in owning a boat like this? I think it's someone who's perhaps come from something like a Beneteau GT36 or a Sea Ray 370 Sundancer, for example, and you really understand how you're boating, and you've decided, you know what, we're not really too bothered about the overnight accommodation. We really want maximum deck space, maximum entertaining space, because we entertain, we day boat. If you're that style of person, and particularly if you're boating in a hotter climate and you just want to maximize usable surface area, I mean, don't forget, you can option this with a little swim bath or spa bath up in the bow. So there's so much luxury features on board for that style of boating. You could also be someone who's come out of say a Flybridge 40 something foot motor cruiser, and again you've realized I'm only using this boat for day boating. So if you want the speed that's available, the convenience that's available with outboards, and if you want the massive space on this, what is quite a large platform, because you never want to be thinking I can't say yes to those extra friends who've asked to come out for the day, well then the DeAntonio is going to suit you just fine. Who's it not suited to? Well, if you want to drive in wind against tide, big ocean rough conditions, this is not the boat. This is not the design brief, in my opinion. This is an entertainer. This is an amazing day boat. It's an excellent platform. This is perfect for skipper drive and also owner drive at sensible speeds in beautiful places. Call it Miami, Majorca, Phuket, or the Gold Coast. Those are the sorts of locations where you want to do an amazing amount of day boating. Obviously you can overnight on it as well, but I think if day boating is your focus, you're the one who's going to see the most value out of owning something like this. Jump in the comments, let me know if you agree or disagree, and tell me what boat you have now. I'm always interested to see what you guys are sitting on right now and what videos of mine you're watching to understand which boat will suit you next in your next stage of boat life. I hope that was useful, coming to you from beautiful Thailand. Check out the competing boat coming up on the screen right now. Don't forget, I'm in Manekt. Link is in the description. See you next time, guys. Thanks.